Go live. There's that.
Oh, sick. Going live, but I'm just like digging my eye out. Cool.
Yeah.
Kevin's like Madonna. He doesn't need a last name. Everyone just knows.
He just knows.
I'm pretty sure I had that set as like I don't know how to go in and change it, but I've had that as my name.
No, it
since,
makes
I don't know,
sense.
since we started this whole thing.
Madonna, Pele, Gandhi, Kevin.
Yeah.
Yeah, just if you know, you know.
Welcome back to the Talking Average Fitness podcast, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Sam Burns, and I'm joined as always by my friend, my partner in Dad Bod Fitness, Mr. Kevin McCarthy. Kevin, how are you today?
We're still breathing.
Yes, we are. When was the last time you did a 24?
Sunday was my last 24. I went straight from, as soon as I woke up, I showered at the station, drove up to Maine to help my dad do construction on a project for 2 days, and then drove back, and then now I'm here. But Sunday was a gnarly 24. That was rough.
Glad to
shift.
hear you survived it. And there's a third head in our little black box of doom.
There is.
I very, very, very excited to have with us Denise Thomas, who's my good friend and mentor for both Kevin and myself. And if you've consumed any media at all from CrossFit in the last decade, there is a greater than zero chance that you've seen this face and or heard this name, and specifically this voice.
The voice. It's the voice.
It is.
Yeah.
So I'm very, very, very excited to have you here, Denise, and to pick your brain. And even though you came in under slightly dubious circumstances, we had an interesting little exchange about the Kevin. An interesting little exchange about our last podcast, and Denise left a comment talking about something that Kevin said that she had said to Sam Hornstein down in CrossFit One Nation. And I was just overjoyed to see that Denise had watched the podcast, because I think that I geeked out on that. But I'd love real quick and correct me if I'm wrong. I'm gonna try to re-say what was said. And Kevin, I'd love to get your confirmation that more or less this is what she said. We were talking at the time about the CrossFit Level 4 assessment, and you had said that in talking with Sam Hornstein, Sam had told you that Denise had kind of indicated to him that he should take the Level 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was at least my understanding from my conversation with Sam. So I wasn't trying to like throw Denise under the bus or anything of that nature. I hope you know that, Denise. I hope you know that I would never.
Well, you did. I'm just kidding. You did
listen,
not. It did.
Listen. But like I accept, like, you know, from my understanding from my conversation with Sam, and to be fair, this is like straight after a 24-hour shift, having to go in and do the open workout. So I'm post 24-hour shift, post open workout when we're having this conversation. So I could have heard something wrong. I could have misunderstood something that he said, to be completely fair. But from my understanding of it was that he had said that Denise had suggested, had tried to encourage him to take the Level 4. So that was just it from what I heard and what I understood.
Am I now being called to the stand? Is this?
Well, so you had a wonderful comment in response to that, specifically about the Level 4, and I'd love for you to repeat that for anyone who didn't read that comment.
Yeah. Well, first of all, this was all fine. It sounds so serious to the listeners, but it's not. The word indicated and suggested was not used in the initial recording of this podcast. It was influenced. And that was the word I didn't like. It was Denise influenced Sam to take, or tried to convince Sam to take the Level 4 or host it or take it. Anyway, just to clear it up, that was not the case. I would never do that, because to endeavor upon something like that, it has to solely be in the hands of the person that wants to take it, because it's such a big undertaking. And for me to suggest or influence or convince or any other words that somebody should do that without talking to them about where they are and what they want to get out of it is not something I would do. So that did not happen. But to Kevin's point, I did talk to Sam about the level 4 because they were at CrossFit had asked him to host it. And I said, and he was asking me what it involved. And I was explaining that if I had a gym, I would host a level 4 because I think it's cool. And why not give back and give a platform for people to excel? However, it has to be okay with the membership and the coaches because it's a big lift, because it does require different programming. It does require a limited amount of people in the class. And if your culture is of that, where it doesn't really matter, the conversation around it's going to mess up your programming is bonkers to me. To think that everybody shows up 5 days a week and they're following this linear program is ridiculous. Like, you're lucky if you get people showing up 3 times a week. So no level 4 or any programming can derail things. It can, if it's done for an extended time where it's just really poor programming from volume and complexity. Yeah, but a couple of workouts in a week is not going to derail any member's progress. So that argument and, well, what are we going to do and how are we going to plan for it? Well, you're not. You're just going to tell people we don't know what's going to happen. If you're that kind of person that, I don't know, likes the unknown and unknowable, maybe you should show up and do these workouts. But
maybe you should try CrossFit.
Maybe you should try CrossFit. But so it was probably that. I was giving him the look. It's not easy. It's a bit, it can be a pain in the ass. But I think all the things that you have to deal with in hosting are far under's not the word. They don't.
I get what
they
you're
are not
at.
outweighed.
It's like low on the.
It's very low.
Yeah.
The reward of putting the level 4 on for me as an owner would outweigh the risks of all the variables I'd have to deal with. Anyway, so that was it. So I talked to Sam yesterday, Kevin, and I was like, "Hey, Sam." And he was like, "Oh, I don't remember it."
Denise grabbed me, pulled me right back under the bus with her.
I was like, Kevin McCarthy told me that I tried to convince you to take the anyway, which is good because now I'm here and I get to talk to you guys. So it was fun. So that was the comment. I would never convince anybody to do that.
If I used the word convinced, which I probably did, it wasn't trying to be like Denise has Sam in an arm bar until he takes the level 4. That wasn't what I was trying to get across. It was like,
I'm not ready. Yes, you are. Sign the line. No. But to end the story, Sam did host. Sam did not take it, but he hosted.
Yeah. There we go.
Having taken the assessment, I was down at CrossFit 1124 in Marietta, Georgia, pardon me. And Callie Cook was one of the owners. She was my point of contact. They have a beautiful facility. Oh my Lord, it's so awesome. Yeah. And they were so awesome about it. And it's very clear that they're very tied into the community, and it's clear that they were obviously getting something out of it. Their members were receptive. They and of course, I'm not the only person taking the level 4 in that window of time. I believe they set it up so that many people can fly in and try to do their 2 classes over 2 days or something like that. And just working around their class schedules, they went out of their way to make it work, and it was nice because I didn't have to think about any of that, and I just got to concentrate on trying to do my thing. But they did a great job, and it is a big lift. It's a lot of logistics on their end, but very grateful that they did so. I've lost track of the number of times we've talked about you on this podcast, Denise.
And I only saw it that one time. I don't even know how it popped up because I know you have this, but I don't think I've watched many, so it wouldn't come through on the thing. And I saw it, and I'm like, "Oh, that's cool. I want to know what they're gonna say about whether the level 3 is worth it or not."
Yeah,
because I have my own thoughts on that. So that was the hook. Got me. Clickbait. You got me.
Yeah, we're good like that.
Yeah, I try and convince Sam to make clickbaity titles for these.
You should just put
Get
things
the
like
people going.
CrossFit's dumb. And I was like, wait a
No,
second. Wait a
no,
second.
We wouldn't do that. Not that
no. And
clickbait.
if we did,
I know.
we'd probably end up having to include some kind of registered trademark, and then we get pinged for trademark infringement and crap like that. Um, I I I have a very unique relationship with you because we when I got into coaching training, really, I knew of you, and I was at a gym, CrossFit Medfield, where Hendel was the head coach and owner, and there was a lot of interconnectedness between Medfield and the One Nation gyms and Reebok CrossFit One, and so it was. I call them. They're all in the same family. Family. That's what the way I describe those gyms. And so I knew of you, and it wasn't until my boss, Luis Alvarez, hired you to come in and observe some of his classes that I ever met you in person. And um, you sat with Luis as he observed one of my classes, and I remember it's weird the things you remember. It was ring dips. It was kipping ring dips, and I remember being like, I do not feel comfortable coaching this movement, and this was early in my training career, and then I'm like, and Denise Thomas is sitting in the corner watching me, and you came up to me after and you said, hey, listen, if you ever want to do some coaching development, here's my information. Let's try to set this up. And then I proceeded to bug you for like 2 years. And you were so gracious about it because you're obviously a very busy person. And finally we ended up working it out so that you were coming in, you were helping me do coaching development and helping me get better and be more aware. And then that shifted and blossomed into a friendship. And then you pulled me in and we worked together at CompTrain, and I um I've stayed at your house and met your family, and I have this wonderful unique perspective on Denise Thomas, both personally and professionally. Um, I have this feeling though that all that most people know about you is your I would go so far as to call you a standard bearer for CrossFit. You're one of the loudest voices and one of the most listened to voices when it comes to um, sticking to the methodology for us as trainers and the responsibility of trainers and the standards that we can set for ourselves and maintaining a high standard and the virtue of maintaining a high standard and what it means long term for members and all of these other things. But I think maybe once ever have I heard you talk about like how you got into this whole thing. And because you came in at such it I look back at like the history of HQ and I think you came in at such a magical time in the growth of the organization. Um, and I love the story. So I'd love to hear a little bit about how you got in and to dispel the notion that you are anything but human. You're a beautiful human, but to dispel the notion that you're anything but human, I'd love to hear about stuff you messed up. You know what I mean? Because
Mhm.
it's super easy. I would not be the only person who puts Denise Thomas on a pedestal, you know? And that's not saying that you don't deserve to be put on a pedestal, but I think you would say that you're just human. And I'd love to provide people an opportunity to hear from the horse's mouth, as it were.
Mm. Well, yes, all those things are true, Kevin. They're all true. Everything
Amazing.
Sam said happened.
Yeah.
So I've messed up a lot of things. I've always been interested in fitness. I've never done another job, a real job, like an adult job outside of being a trainer. Jobs
Mhm.
prior to becoming a trainer, and I first became a trainer back in 2007, I want to say, when I was in New York City working as a sports performance specialist in one of the velocity facilities. But I'd done a bunch of personal training prior to that, and I was a coach for the women's soccer team at the university I was getting my master's degree at, Long Island University, shout out. And then prior to that, I played international, semi-pro, collegiate, club level soccer. And I did a little bit of, what do you call it here? It's not interning, but it was like where you leave your school for a few weeks and you go do some experience somewhere.
Yeah.
I did that in a fitness gym when I was 15. So I've always been interested in fitness, but jobs prior to this, I worked in a bodega, like a sandwich shop. That was my first job. I think I was maybe 15, 14. I don't even know if I was legally allowed to work, but I worked in my mom's nursing home, which was for the elderly, which if you can work with elderly people, at least at this level and stage they're at, you have a heart of gold. That's why my mom can put up with me, honestly. Patience is needed. Yeah. So I did that. I worked in a kebab shop, like slicing kebabs, but not even in a shop. It was like a concession stand in like a mall. And I had to wear this little pinny and hat and things. I worked in a car dealership on the front desk. And I was also a mail woman. I delivered mail for people for a while. This was all in England. And then I found fitness. And my job in New York City, where I was a sports performance specialist, was where I really started to fall in love with technique and following a progression. And they would have them kind of siloed out into multi-directional, max velocity, and I always forget the last one, acceleration drills, I think it was. And then there was a weightlifting program too that wasn't very successful because the person that owned Velocity Sports Performance, his name was Lawrence Seagraves. He was the head coach for the track and field team and FSU, I want to say. So he was all about the running and the non-weightlifting side of fitness. So I started to follow that program as a trainer, and I had a really great mentor that helped me do that. We would have people in lines. We would call go, stop, move. And it was a very akin to CrossFit, but I wouldn't have known that at the time. I wasn't doing CrossFit. And then the story is that I saw someone in the gym. He was a contractor coming in, doing these pull-ups where he was swinging around under a bar. And we live in a world now where CrossFit's out there and things aren't as weird anymore. But for me, I was like, why is he swinging around on the bar like that? Like it was doing pull-ups, but he was using his body to get up there. It was the kipping pull-up. And he had bandages on his hands. And I was like, this is weird. Why? And I'd seen him before. This guy was Dave Lipson. And I'd seen him. He'd been in the gym for a while, always doing different stuff to everybody else. And it wasn't just CrossFit stuff. He was big into the NSCA stuff back then too. So he was just doing different things. And eventually I'm like, I'm going to go talk to him. And then the friendship blossomed. And he was the reason why I went to my level 1, my level 2, interned on seminar staff, went to Olympic lifting course down in Baltimore. We drove down in the middle of the summer and it was just blazing hot. Everything I've done CrossFit, I signed up for the 09 regionals. I mean, Dave was the reason.
Amazing.
And then, I interned and got on. And that was kind of my journey into CrossFit. But without giving you specifics, I think I could say the standards that you say I'm so well known for is like, flagpole in the ground and like, this is who we are and what we do. That is very characteristic of me. Back before, though, I think it could borderline. And I say borderline. Everyone that knew me back then would be like, no, you were way over the line. It was a little maybe like pompous, pretentious, like we are it. And if you're not doing this, you're like not doing the best thing. And I think the way that I would deliver that as a young trainer, a young lecturer at the seminars could have come across as more of it's black or white. I mean, this is what it is. There's no way. You must only do triplets and couplets and heavy days. And I still believe all that. But I now realize in my older, wiser years, I realize that CrossFit isn't just this one thing. It can be many things. And just recently, I was talking to Adrian Bosman about this, and I asked him, hey, is there such thing as a classic CrossFit? And he said, in fact, I'll wait for his podcast to come out. You can hear it. But what he said when I asked him, what is CrossFit? He said, it's easier to say what CrossFit isn't. And that's kind of the way that I look at it now, because CrossFit can be so many expressions with variance, functionality, intensity, but it's very clear when it isn't CrossFit.
Right.
So this whole like strength metcon and zone 2 and that's all part of CrossFit. It's all part of the metabolic pathways. It's just, and here's the thing about, we don't do this or we don't do this. We don't do enough zone 2 or we don't do enough of this other very short, very fast-paced activity. I'm like, yes, CrossFit does, but is your affiliate programming that?
Yeah.
Then no one ever said that CrossFit, you can't do a 45-minute long slow run or a 2-hour slow run. It's just we have class considerations, but it is CrossFit. It's just that you are not exposed to it through whatever affiliate you go into based on their class considerations.
Yeah. It helps me breathe a little easier hearing you say that, like, you know, it's opened up a little bit.
There's still something very certain on. Like I'm like, no.
I
like,
would love to hear those.
You know,
like, give me an example of something that isn't CrossFit.
What isn't CrossFit? CrossFit is doing this. CrossFit isn't doing the same thing every day.
How are we defining same thing?
The same activity for the same duration.
Would you classify? So this is. I'm interested
CrossFit
in your
isn't. CrossFit isn't movement in isolation, using machines.
Okay. So my
they're just two things.
Sure. And my question, and not because I'm looking for you to give us particular answers, because I'm interested in your answer. We have had the discussion previously. So the classic CrossFit prescription is a single workout a day. And depending on what school you grew up in, you might make the argument that strength metcon is not CrossFit, right? If you have an affiliate that is varying the movements, varying the time domains, but they are always doing some kind of strength metcon, are they violating that variance principle? And therefore, is that not CrossFit?
I think strength metcon is CrossFit.
Oh, okay. So it's irrelevant then.
Yeah, it's irrelevant. And it's CrossFit because you're doing some strength portion, and then you're doing some kind of, we'll call it like your sweaty workout, right? Your metcon. And it's not the same as what you did the day before or 2 days before. The argument for the strength, let's hammer this out. The argument for why strength metcon is less ideal than your classic, okay, we can talk about what classic is, but your classic CrossFit of one workout is the efficacy of the coach and what's possible with 15, 20 people in 60 minutes with all kinds of walks of life. It's the chaos of it. And you could even argue there's that they're coaching, but are they coaching? There's so many ways we can go. It's like the best coaching you've ever seen, actually over coaching and zero coaching. Now, I think that maybe, and I include myself in this too, at a certain point in my coaching career, I was over coaching, over teaching. Not in my Reebok years, I don't believe that, but I think maybe in the last maybe 4 or 5 years, I've started to over teach. And then there's no teaching, and there's nothing. But if you're doing a strength metcon, let's say you're doing a 5x2 snatch, and then you're going into a 15, 16 minute AMRAP, there's a lot in there depending on what the metcon is. Let's say it's not a snatch. Let's say it's something else. Total bar, rowing, front squats, I don't know. You can still give a lot to people. It's just how much and is it appropriate for the people that are in front of you?
Mhm.
So there's the argument of is strength metcon CrossFit, depending if it's continually varied and we're doing it at the relative high intensity, not max, but high intensity, and we're using compound functional movements, then yes, they're doing CrossFit. Are they over volumizing average people? Maybe. I'd have to see the gym and results over a long term.
Sure.
But the problem for me comes as an assessor of coaches is you're not giving them any coaching, meaning you're just telling them what to do and they're doing it. And there's an argument there too. There's an
Sure.
argument there too for like, is it better than the traditional form? I don't know. But so that, yes, strength metcon is CrossFit if it's constantly varied, I would
Sure.
say.
And like so many things, it's not black or white, it's nuanced. There are pluses and minuses and trade-offs for either decision. One of the things that we've talked about is that strength metcon is easier to administer in a class because it asks less of the trainer or coach. Whereas single workout a day, you like if you have a 5x5 back squat, you got to show up. If you've got a deadlift, like heavy deadlift day, you got to show up and you've got to be prepared to teach. And if your workout is Fran, it's a ballpark 5-minute workout. You've got 55 minutes to fill in, and
It's a fast Fran time.
it's a very fast Fran time.
Sam's
Hopefully
very
everyone
fit,
is.
so
Yeah, well, hopefully everyone is scaling effectively and appropriately. And so yeah, there are pluses and minuses and trade-offs, and so it's very cool to hear you answer that question. And also, I didn't know that like the last couple of years, you feel like you were over teaching.
Yeah, and I think what I mean by over teaching is giving a little bit too much of the why, specific to the specific warm-up, not the general, it was usually in the specific warm-up, and it was usually a barbell where there'd just be maybe a more than ideal length of explanation of why we're doing it before we do it. And I could be wrong. I mean, I don't know. This is just my self-assessment, but I felt they don't need to know all this. They need to know like what it looks like and how they're going to do it and how many reps. And then we need to get them to the full movement. And I think that magical line that we use in our level 1 seminar staff trainer meeting is the progressions are pieces of the movement. The magic is in the full movement. It's like, get them to the full movement. We can always go back to the progression. But I think I was spending too much time on progressions for the quest of making them perfect in each progression, right? When that's just paralysis by analysis at that point.
How
I've done that a lot.
Yeah.
Like just like hammering the parts of the progression where it's like, and then spending not nearly enough time on the full movement before they get kind of cut loose to do whatever they're going to do, like get weight for their bar and stuff. It's like, all right, well, I'm sending them to go get weight for their bar for their full snatch. And they did 70 reps of pieces of a snatch and then 5 reps of a full snatch, and then off they go. And so I've been there. I've done that.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's times for that too. I mean, if the snatch is the main ingredient on that, that meal that day, it's like, yeah, let's dig in. But if you've got other things going on, which we do, we just don't have that luxury.
I know that one of the things that I have struggled with throughout my entire teaching and coaching career is imposter syndrome and combating imposter syndrome. And for me, one of the ways imposter syndrome manifests is over talking. I feel a need to make 100% clear to whoever I have captive that I know what I'm talking about, and I do that by talking about the progressions and why and the history of the progressions and what Russian weightlifter came up with them first and blah blah blah. And do you ever experience any of that? Do you ever catch yourself falling into things like that?
Imposter syndrome, yes, like all the time. It never leaves. Over explaining to get their respect or maybe earn some kind of level of credibility. Not as much now. If I overtalk, it's because I'm embellishing and I'm just really enjoying it.
Sure.
But is that a code for something, Kevin?
No, I'm actually letting the cat
he's
out.
just
I'm going to let the cat out. We'll see you in 20 minutes, Sam.
That's right. The coach.
I'm sure you're letting the
go
cat
out
out.
for a 1 mile warm up from I gotta poop.
Yeah.
But younger and not like new, but like learning through for sure. Like when I'm standing in front of a class and I'm not confident, yeah, I would go through all the things and talk about it. But my over talking is usually either a result of I'm just really excited about it and I want to share it, or I didn't stick to my plan. But if I'm going long in something, it's because I was indulging again. I just didn't stick to my plan.
Right.
Yeah.
What, Kevin? I don't want to monopolize this thing. Please talk, because I could ask questions all day long.
I went through like a stretch of my coaching career, and I forget where in the timeline this was, where I had the opposite of imposter syndrome. Like, was just like, I got this, way too comfortable about it. And this is where like my favorite Denise story, where she told me I was a Barry's boot camp instructor. We were doing
nothing wrong with Barry's, by the way.
Yeah. Not poo-poo and anything.
But it's not CrossFit.
Yeah. No, but and Denise wasn't wrong. Like, it was just one of those, like, you've gotten to a point where like all your members, you're having fun with it, like you know the movements, the progressions and everything. And I remember it was Christina Anderson was doing CDP, I think, with you, Denise, and she was observing one of my classes. Like, you and Christina were observing one of my classes, and we were outdoors because COVID times. And I forget the exact workout, but I know there were snatches in there. And I went through the class just like fully overconfident in everything I was doing. And then afterwards, Denise was like, "Would you like some feedback?" I was like, "I'll always take feedback. I love feedback." And then she sat me down in a chair. And it's a trap.
Take a seat.
And was like, "Hey, yeah, pretty much like have a seat, son." And like, very abruptly pulled me back down to earth, but it was the best thing that could have happened for me in my coaching career. And the thing is, like, I hadn't spent much time with Denise outside of if I was just the like the POC for a seminar. So like if we were hosting a seminar across with Boston or One Nation or something, and Denise was on staff, like that was the realm in which I knew Denise. And so, but like, of course, I knew who Denise was. She's on staff. I've watched her like just absolutely shame Patriots fans and go Birds. In her lectures, or like and so, but I didn't really have like the experience with Denise that Sam has, the relationship. But she just like very professionally was like, "Hey, that wasn't even remotely close to good enough. If you think it was, like, check yourself." And may or may not have
said it like that.
No, not
just
but like,
kidding.
just to paraphrase. But like, it gave me some really, really good feedback. May or may not have compared me to a Barry's bootcamp instructor. And then like she had to go off like do the rest stuff with Christina. And I remember I sat in that office, like in that chair for like a solid half an hour, just staring at the wall. And it was like, okay, like let's get to work then. And so I think that's where like I recruited James and Lachlan to like observe more of my classes and give me more feedback and help me sharpen things up. So yeah, I had the opposite of the imposter syndrome issue.
Yeah, well, to be fair to you, Kevin,
good.
when we say the Barry's bootcamp instructor, insert any brand, but instructor, you knew a lot about the snatch. You were good at snatching. You're a good athlete. You were confident in that lift. And that's where the slippery slope is that now the instruction was good. It was clear. People were moving, but there just wasn't a lot of feedback for them and how they can get better. And that's what I find is the biggest area of improvement for coaches across the the cohort that I've seen. It's also the hardest and it takes the longest. So it's the bit where it gets a little painful because you're going to become aware. I was just talking to a guy this morning and he's like, I'm just seeing all these faults and I can't correct them quick enough. And I'm like, well, they've always been there, but now you know they're there. And now you're feeling like you're inadequate. And like, do not see this as an opportunity now that you have broken through another layer of the criteria. Like you're seeing now, it's great, but it's going to be very uncomfortable for a while because you're not going to be able to correct them at the speed you want to. And it's going to create a trickle down effect of time stamps getting messed around and your confidence. Like you're basically, you got to break it and then build it back up. And so you were there, you were at a point where it's a good place to be. It's like, all right, you got everything else, but now we got to get the seeing and correcting dialed in.
Yeah. I too have a story where Denise said something to me and I lost time. Mine was, I can't remember how we got on the topic, but I had contracted you. It was early in our professional relationship, and I'd contracted you to observe my classes and give me some feedback. And I remember in typical Denise fashion, I would coach 2 classes back to back. And so I'd finish the class and I'd have a 5-minute window and Denise would give me 2 pages of notes. And then I would have to turn around and go do another class. And I remember once you talking about the spectrum of coaches. And specifically to me, I believe the words you said were, you've got to decide what kind of coach you want to be. And that can be on either end. One example is, I'm here to have fun. I love my community. I just want to coach part-time. You don't care about professional development. I'm here to have a blast, And on the other end of the spectrum is, I'm here to be the best professional coach that I can be, even if that means some people don't like me because I'm pursuing something, I've got a cause and a calling and things like that, and everything in between. And I lost sleep that night trying to figure out like where I fell on that and like what convictions were my convictions rather than convictions I had taken on as a part of like putting on the mantle of trainer or coach. And you have this wonderful way of like a stiletto knife stuck between the ribs, like getting right to the point of something. You know what I mean?
I can't wait for the title of this episode. I had a story about Denise once sticking. Yeah, Sam, that question that I asked you back then is a question that I ask a lot of people, and it's the most important question before you start to give feedback. Because a couple of things that you said, what have I messed up? One is giving people too much in between classes. So well done for being on it's just not possible. But another one is offering feedback without understanding their situation. Like, how much time do you have to spend on this? How much does it mean to you? Where do you want to go? Like, why do you do this? Do you want to get better? There's all these questions, because to go in and be like, hey, you got to call reps and keep them in a line. And that's, for me, that's my standard. It's a standard that I believe is efficient for me. But there's another coach that exists that looks a little chaotic, but they're a damn good coach. And just by the naked eye, you'd be like, what is going on here? But everyone's getting corrections. Everyone's moving well. It's a safe environment. And that could also be effective. So it's looking at what do we want for our people and what do you want for yourself? And then we have to find the relationship. And it could be that, I don't know if CrossFit coaching's for you, if that's what you want. You just want to be the fun guy, girl, and you want to go out there and have a good time. The risk is too high for what we do here. That can't be it. Or you're also all the way on the other end is, I don't really like people. I just really love coaching. I'm like, okay, well, we got to talk about that. So we got to just figure out where we want to be. Like, who do you want to be? And I said, again, this morning, I said it to one of my mentees. I said, it's okay for you to go out and how did I put it? Give me a second.
Take your time.
I said, you have to decide. What was the premise? What was the thing we were talking about? Oh, so he wanted to teach everything. He just wanted, he's like, I want to teach everything. And if I give a cue and then I give another one, I want it to stick. Like, and if it doesn't, I am unsuccessful. Like, that was kind of where his mind was at. And I just said, I think that's a great place to shoot for, but you can't always control how people take on cues. You can help, you can change up your cues all day long, but there's going to be situations that go on in their life you just can't. So you have to decide, first of all, what's your standard, and then what's realistic. And it was the same thing. It's like, is that what success is for you? Because if it is, then let's do everything we can to try and make that happen. It's going to be hard, because I've had people in my classes for years who I've told them 1 million times, bring your hands wider. And every single time their hands go right back where they were. And that's going to happen. That's coaching. It's like saying the same things over again and reminding them. But that question's huge. Yeah. Like, who do you want to be? You want to be the fun? You want to be the stuck in the mud? You want to be somewhere in between? I don't know. Okay. How much time do you have? Let's make a plan.
Amazing. I'm trying to be very mindful of time. I know we have a hard stop here. In the last minute or so, the journey that your coaching career has gone on, and because of that, your personal life and all those other things, what is the single biggest thing that you are working on and trying to be better about currently, right now?
It's a good question. And it's an easy one for me to answer, because I've been coaching for a very long time, a couple of decades. And just recently in February, I stepped back from coaching. So I'm not currently coaching at a gym. But the reason for it was that I needed to take a 10,000 foot perspective on what it meant to me to be a CrossFit coach. And I'd learned all these things, and they're all great. And I'm going to bring a lot of them along with me, but I need to leave some things behind. But I couldn't make those changes or develop that awareness while I was in it. I couldn't, so I had to remove myself from it. And so that's what I'm working on. I'm working on a new way, using all the foundational pieces of the 6 criteria, tell, show, do, check, scaling, threshold, bringing all the methodology pieces along with me. But I've developed these coaching principles that they're not special or unique to me. They're just mine. I'm sure other people have them. And I want people to have fun. It should be fun. Not all the time. You're going to do a workout that you hate, and that's okay. They don't all have to be sexy, but I want you to have fun. I want you to be relatively safe. So whether that's equipment set up, people set up, technique, like, my job is to keep you as safe as I can with what's in my control. And then I want you to get to have success. So that's either fitness or health. And if you come into my class, I'm going to make sure that's both of those things. But what does that mean relative to you? Like, fitness and health for Kevin will not look the same as it will for Sam. Instead of me coming in with my own agenda of what I think people need and want, and this is the stimulus, and you must be within this time, and asking more questions and helping them on their own journeys and just digging in a little bit more there. So I had another one too that I'm misplacing, but those were the big ones: is fun, safe, and let's get success relative to what you want. And I'm going to come back to the coaching world at some point, and I'm going to use those principles to plan my classes, and make it more about them and not about me and what I think I should be as a CrossFit, or what the class should look like from my standards, objective standards.
Well, I'd say if Denise Thomas can reevaluate what she thinks she wants to be or do or present as a CrossFit coach, then that gives us all license to do the same thing and ask ourselves the same questions. All right, Denise, thank you for spending some time with us. I really, really appreciate it. Personally, I miss the hell out of you. So come up to me at some point. Kevin, you too. And I'm gonna kick everybody out, and I'm gonna end the stream. And to anyone who's watching, please come back next week. We'll do something completely different because that's what we do. And Kevin and Denise, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah. Peace, everybody.
Thank you.